I'm Rob from HopZine.com. Thanks for joining me for another video beer review. This time we're looking at two beers from BrewDog, which go by exactly the same name, and they are bottles of Dogma. Just give you a closer look. There you go. We're looking at the original Dogma, which has recently been rebrewed for the last time, they say. That weighs in at 7.8%. The newer version just over here weighs in at 7.4% ABV. Both have obviously got the same name. Both have, I guess the commonality is they're a Scotch ale of sorts, and both of them have Scottish heather honey in them. So the original one, which as I said is 7.8%, I'll try this one first. The brew sheet on this one is, it's brewed with guarana, poppy seeds and cola nut plus the Scottish heather honey. But I'll give you the actual specifics of the beer. So the malt bill is Marisota, dark crystal, caramel malt, chocolate malt, roasted barley, and it's hopped with Bramlin Cross and Amarillo. So it's a really interesting kind of combination of ingredients there. You're getting kind of dark malts, quite a lot of dark malts really, with your chocolate and your and crystal and roasted barley. So you're expecting a quite dark beer, but from my memory, it's definitely not a dark beer. So let's get this in a glass. I'm going to put the excuse me, put that down the floor. The original one, putting in my abstract glass so I don't forget what it is. Yeah, I had this a couple of years ago now actually. That's enough in the glass. Let me just put one more bottle there. So the beer in the glass this time is kind of like a nice reddish amber. What do they call it in the front of the bottle? They call it a heather honey infused ale. Okay. So, but on the new one they actually call it a Scotch ale. Yes, a really nice, quite small but kind of eggshell coloured, foamy head. Looks quite creamy. Yeah, just kind of on the orangey kind of side of eggshell. Let's have a sniff. It's fascinating. It's definitely got a very typical BrewDog quality. Wow, it's weird though. It smells like, it does smell a bit like an alcoholic iron brew, and I don't mean like a bottle of Wicked. It's got a sweetness to it. It's got a kind of old orangey sweetness. It has got a kind of wild flower quality in there. But a dense syrup actually, yeah, really concentrated sweet syrup. Yeah, maybe kind of a bit of star anise. Maybe a hint of like cayenne pepper in the background there. Fascinating smelling beer. Anyway, let's dig in. Cheers. Very complex actually. Initial flavours. Wow, that's quite hoppy. Initial flavours are kind of moving towards some like cinnamon, as I said before, like star anise, maybe a hint of aniseed. Quite spicy, maybe a bit of cardamom, but certainly quite an intense sweet orange and a real kind of odd flavour. Toffee, definitely, kind of like a hard toffee. Then a big kind of maybe oldish grapefruit bitterness comes through. It's got an age to it as this beer. At the back end it becomes a bit more floral with a grapefruit bitterness, which is, I mean, once again, it's quite dulled is the bitterness. It's not a kind of a lively, vital kind of bitterness. Interesting. Can't say I'm in love with it. It's quite a confused beer in a way. What is it? It's kind of like this weird infused amber ale in a way. Reminds me of, yeah, it's like a big boozy amber ale with something with kind of like added spices. Weird one that. Anyway, going on to the latest version of Dogma, 7.4% ABV. This one they say is a honey infused Scotch ale, so they're calling it a Scotch ale this time. And this might have been part of the prototype series recently. I heard good things about a Scotch ale coming out of BrewDog, which didn't really, from my recollection, didn't really see the light. So in the comparison, this doesn't have all those different ingredients like guarana and cola nut and all this kind of business. But the beer itself is, the malt bill is Munich Crystal Chocolate Brown dark chocolate malt. So this time it's going to be a dark beer. I mean, this was the old one, the original. It's kind of like a rich amber. This one is clearly setting out to be a dark beer with all those kind of big roasted malts. This time it's hopped with Sarts and First Gold, so you might get some kind of more citrus, but also an earthiness to it opposed to the spice. But it's also once again infused with that heather honey. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this. I think I've heard good things. Not in love with the original. It's alright. It's alright as the original, but it's not my kind of thing in a way. Excuse me. Pouring much darker this time. So when you think of a Scotch ale, you think of a dark beer. And I've had some lovely Scotch ales. I mean, from Founders do a lovely one called Dirty Bastard. Oh, a whole different story now. Black, yeah, pretty much black. It might have a real kind of slight brown tint to it. A really nice kind of frothy, foamy, kind of cappuccino head. It's like a it's like a dark tan. Anyway, let's have a sniff of this. Not much aroma on it. Might have to come back to that. You can smell a lot of roasted malts. Kind of quite an acidity to the kind of bitterness as well. I'm not getting a load off of that, but yeah, definitely kind of roasted malts. But no distinct kind of anything jumping out in particular. I'll come back to that anyway. Let's have a taste. Cheers. So this is 7.4%. This is the newer version. Ah. Now we're talking. This is much better. See that the old version? It's like, what is it? What does it? Where does it stand out? As a Scotch brewery, they should have a Scotch ale. I mean, that is, it's a Scottish influenced beer, that, but this is a traditional Scottish Scotch ale. As flavours go, raisins, nice big juicy plums actually. There's some quite earthy coffee in there. Some real kind of seriously dark treacle in there. There is a juiciness to it though, certainly is, which I think is kind of passed on from that. There is that juiciness, not as hoppy obviously. There's a drinking chocolate quality in there, but there's this juiciness, as I said, kind of plums, and there is a mild bitterness this time, which is, it's hard to place actually. It's like old citrus peel. Yeah, it's quite nice actually. Not bad at all. Whole different story this time. That's a Scotch ale. That's really nice. That's really surprised me. It's not a it doesn't scream out a BrewDog beer. I guess BrewDog renowned for kind of quite bizarre, slightly extreme, experimental beers, and then a very kind of like then hoppy beers have become very much a trademark for them. And that's kind of quite a sensible beer in a way. It's 7.4, so if you have too much of it, I don't think it'll be sensible anymore. But that's quite nice. That's quite nice, and I think it's quite refreshing that a Scottish brewery, who have got a very much a global kind of outlook on their business, are certainly embracing their roots, and I think that's a good. That's got to be a good thing. Using indigenous ingredients, something that is very close to where they're positioned, but taking that style and doing their own thing with it, but at the same time being very faithful. And I think that's a lovely addition to their kind of roster of beers. Let me just revisit the original Dogma for a minute. I mean, it's okay. It seems like for me the flavours of the darker malts get a bit kind of underutilised in this original Dogma, which is an amber ale. Why do you need chocolate malt and stuff like that in there? I don't think it's got any place. Personally, I think this one is doing the job, and this should be the future of this specific brand name, Dogma. So that's really nice. I'm really happy with that, actually. I'm glad I've kind of like taken this time to have a look at these, because I did have this a while ago, actually, a couple of years ago. It was not, and I remember it being quite nice, and it is. But where is its place? I don't think it's got a place. It's nice. It's a nice kind of idea to revisit this beer and have them side by side with that. But to be honest, the new one stands head and shoulders above that. It's really quite nice. So anyway, to wrap up, that is a bottle of the most recent incarnation of BrewDog's Dogma Heather infused Scotch Ale, 7.4% ABV. It's winning of the original one for me. Anyway, I'm Rob from HopZine.com. I'll see you next time. Cheers.